the one, the only, Ben Sion.
Good evening and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube, Just Daf It. As we continue Daf Yomi Maseches Gittin, tonight's Daf is Gittin Daf Lamed Tet, number 39. Talk today more about the freeing of an Eved, also relate to also the gerushin of a woman. Are they connected? Is the get Shichur and the get of Isha connected? I'll deal more extensively with that in Email Ben Sion. You really want to hear this year, the fundamental difference between the bond of marriage and the bond that a slave has to his master, according to the Torah. So the Gemara says, Tashma, the bottom of Lamed base. Tashma. We're trying to prove we had a machlokes. If you're makdish your Eved, you sanctify your Eved, similar to the base on Migdash, is he free? Right. According to both editions of Rab, you need to get Shechor. The question is he free or not? The first opinion, Rabbah, this is the name of Rab, it is. He is free. Sarah get Shechor. According to the second version of Rav, not. So the Gemara asks on the first version of Rav, Tashma, makdish avdo, if you're makdish your Eved, osev ochel, shalahikdish haladamo. If you're makdish your Eved, he doesn't go free. Basically, whatever work he does, you can do it. And if he produces food, he can eat that food because you haven't made him hekdesh. All you meant to say is that his value, I'm giving his value. Let's say he's worth $100, I'll give his value to the base on Mikdash. But it doesn't mention that he goes free. So, Lamed Tet and Aleph, top, then where's Hamani Rav Meiri? So the Gemara answer, Rab would say, that's Rav Meir. This brisa reflects opinion of Rav Meir. The Amar Eina Motzi Dvarav Levabatala. Rav Meir, the one of Machlokes. So a person says something which doesn't seemingly make sense, we have to reinterpret his words. So Rav Meir says he must have some reasoning why he said that. Let's try to figure out why he said it. So even though it's not ostensibly what he meant, we'll attach meaning to those words. Hakanam Misabra. And that's why, right, Rav Meir says he didn't mean that he's going to actually free him. He just meant that he's giving his value to the base of Mikdash. Hakanam Misabra. The rest it makes sense to say this to Rav Meir. The Ksani Seifa, the end of the right says, V'chein hu shehikdish atzmo. If the Eved himself is makdish himself to the base of Mikdash, Osev ochel, again, he could continue working and eat whatever he produces. Shalo hikdish aladama. He's only makdish his value. Yeah, I'm Bishlam Rav Meir. If you say this whole brisa follows Rav Meir shop here, Leimash Rabbanan he Bishlam Avdo Lidami Kai. Sorry, hikdish atzmo is not the Eved is makdish atzmo. The master or a regular person is makdish himself. Whereas Bishlam Avdol Adamikai, it makes sense to interpret, even the Rabbanan potentially can interpret your Makdishim to give his value to the base of Hamikdash. Ela Il Adamikaya, Bain Chorin, the Gemara says, there's no value on a person, right? People don't have value, people are not sold usually. Free people are not sold. Some people, there is human trafficking of people. Most free people that have their own liberty are not sold. So there's no value to such a person. How you would value it to the base of Hamikdash? So if you say Ramey or a shopper, then Rosh Rabbanan and Ibishlam Abdul Adamikai, Il Adamikai. Doesn't make sense. It must be the Rameir, and therefore, even if you're makdish yourself, you meant some value, whatever the value you have. I don't know. You could estimate a person's value. Lema Ketanai. Say it's Machlokes Tanaim. Hamakdish Abdo in Molinbo. Machlokes says if you're makdish your Eved, so the Tanakama says there's no Me'ilah. Right? If you get benefit from that Eved, he benefits you, he cooks a meal for you. There's no Me'ilah. Or uses his body to work. Right? You use his body to do work in the field for you. There's no Me'ilah. You didn't take money from Hekdesh. Sheng Me'ilah Omer Molin, Besaro. You could do Me'ilah if you got benefit from his hair. How would you give it from his hair? I don't know exactly. Maybe you cut off his hair and use it to make a shaitel. My lab hakamith. What are they arguing? Tanakama and Rosh Gamliel. The Marsav are kadosh or Marsav are lo kadosh. Aren't they arguing about if you're makdish somebody, you actually make that person kadosh or not? Right. That's the machlokas. According to the Tanakama, you don't make someone kadosh. According to Rosh Gamliel, you do someone kadosh. So I said, Tispera, is that possible? Hi Molinbo, Vein Molinbo, Hi Kadosh, Vein Kadosh, my brother. If that really was a machlokas, machlokas shouldn't have said Me'ilah. Me'ilah is, right, a result. It's one of the symptoms of Hekdesh, but the main title of it should be whether he's Hukdash or not Hukdash. Ella, the Kuli Alma Kadosh. Everyone agrees, both Tanakama and Shemulil hold he's Kadosh. One opinion holds that Eved is like karkos. There's no meila by karkos, right? If you donate your field to a hektish, so even if I go grow stuff in that field, it's not meila, I plant the apple tree and I eat from the apple. I'm not meila from hektish. There's no meila by karkos. We'll explain this morning events. There's karkos and metaltalin. It's no meila karkos. So avodim like karkos is no meila. Umar Savar can metaltalin dami. And the other mandamar holds he's like metaltalin. He's like metaltalin, and therefore there's meila. If there's an opinion that holds that he's metaltalin, so any benefit you get from his body, whether you get it from his hair or you get it from his body, right? He does something, he gives you a hug, it's meila. So like the Gemara is going to say later on, Avadim are treated like karkos because they're hookish to karkos. The Gemara says later on, right? Just like you inherit land to your children, you also inherit slaves to your children. So like karkos, they're arguing uniquely about hair. He has very long hair and it needs a haircut. Right? One opinion holds since he needs to be cut off, he needs to go to the barber. It's already like it's cut off almost, and therefore there's meila because metaltalin has meila. Umar Savarlav goes is dummy. The other opinion, the first opinion, Tanakh says not. There's no meila. Hold is not like cut off until you actually cut it off. Leimahani tonight, kahani tonight. Say that machlokas. If that's the machlokas, the way we're studying with Tanakh and Shmuel, say they argue about the same thing about other Tanaim argue about. This now we learn Masechah a Mishnah and Masechah Shavuos. Ramei Omer Yesh Dvarim Shehem Kekarka Ve'en Kekarka. Chum don't argue. Don't agree with him. Sorry. Ketza. What's the example? Someone says to his friend, I'm giving you 10 grapevines to watch as a bikadon, to watch for me. And they have grape clusters growing on them. And he said, I gave it to you. But Hala Omer, and he demands it back. He says, give it back to me. Hala Omer, another person says, you only gave me 5, not 10. Ramei or Mechayev. The question is, can you take a shvua, a modib mixas, right? We'll learn in Mesechus Shvuos, but Mitzvah we'll learn that modib mixas. If I lend someone money, he says, I don't know you anything. Midoraisa is not chayev a shvua. It's called for bakol. Midorabbana, he has to take a shvua says. But if he's modib mixas, the Gemara says midoraisa. There's a reason the Gemara even gives that he has to take a shvua midoraisa from the Torah. These are one of the 3 shvuos midoraisa. So it only applies, the Gemara says, by metaltalin. Like our karkos, there's no such thing as modib mixas. Modib mixas only applies by metaltalin, not karkos. So here you have vines which are attached to the ground, and the grapes are still attached to the vines. So is there a shvua modib mixas or not? Meir says you chayev a shvua modib mixas. So chum omrim kol mechuber l'karka harev l'karka. It's attached to the ground like karkos. There is no modib mixas on karkos. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi China, what are they arguing about? They're talking about grapes that are ready to be plucked, right? They're ripe, they're ready to be plucked. The Rameir Savar, Kapsuras Damya. He holds, because they're ready to be plucked, so it's like they're already taken off. They're like metaltalin, they ever take a shvua, moda mixas. Rabbanan Savar, Lav, Kapsuras Damya. The Rabbanan say it's not. Even though they're ready to be plucked, they weren't actually plucked yet, it's attached to the ground. Whereas I feel the Mayor. The Mayor says it's not the same machlok. You can even say both opinions agree on Mayor. I'd come the Kamar Mayor Hastam Elabanovim. The Kamar the Kaiman Mikash Kashish. Both Tanakam and Lil could agree to a Mayor. Because there it makes sense that they're like metaltalin over there. Because if you keep the grapes longer, right, they're gonna dry out. They have to be plucked exactly the right time. Aval Hacha Kamar the Kai Ashvuchay Mishabach. Even though really a person should get a haircut, and only a Nazir keeps his hair really long. You look awful if you don't get a haircut, but your hair gets nicer and more lustrous the more it grows. So therefore, it's never considered like metaltalin. Kisalik Rabbi Bar Yosef, when Rabbi Bar Yosef went to Eretz Yisrael, Amar Lahai Shmaisa the Rav Kamei Rabbi Yochanan. He said the following teaching of Rav. There were 2 versions of Rav. Either he's Mafkir Zevet or he's Machdish Zevet. He's Yosei Lecheres, but Sarach gets Shechrar. That's what Rav's teaching was. We learned yesterday. Amar Rav Hachi. When Rabbi Yochanan heard, they said, Rav really said this. So the Gemara interjects and says, V'hula Amar Hachi. Didn't Rabbi Yochanan say the same thing? Amar Ula Rabbi Yochanan Makir Avdi Yosel Cheres Sarach Yeshachar. He says exactly the same thing as Rav, right? Hachi Gamar. It is what he meant to say. Amar Rav Kavasi. He meant to say when he said Amar Rav Hachi, did Rav really say that? Did Rav really say like me? He was astounded that Rav agreed to him. Some say that the version was when they told Rabbi Yochanan, they told him, but they didn't mention Saraket Shechor. And Rabbi Yochanan was astounded. Didn't Rav also mention you need to get Shechor? Rabbi Yochanan followed his own reasoning. Right? Both Rav and Rabbi Yochanan agree, and this is the halacha. We don't pass on like Shmuel. Mafkar Avdo Yatz Lecheres, but he needs to get Shechor. Kufa Amar Ula Rabbi Yochanan Mafkar Avdo Yatz Lecheres Zara get Shechor. Esir Rav Ula Rabbi asked the question on Ula from a brisa. A ger shemeis, a ger, a convert, he died. Bizbezu Yisrael Nechas. If he dies, a ger dies. He has no relatives, right? All his familial connections are cut off once he converts. Even if his brother were to convert, he's not related to him because once you're a ger should know cut in the shell down like you're newborn, so you have no family relations. So therefore, all his nechasim are hefker once he dies. So Yisrael comes and takes his possessions. Vayu behen avadim. He had some slaves. Ben gdol ben ktanim kanu atman. According to the Tanakama, even if whether they're over 13 or under the age of 13, the avadim are kona themselves. They're like hefker. Hefker. That's it. Hefker. They're kona themselves. B'nei Chorin, Abba Shalom says Gedolim Kanu Atzman. The ones over 13 were kohen themselves. B'nei Chorin, Ktanim Kol Max Behen Zachav. And the Ktanim can't be kohen themselves because they're not the age of when they know how to do kinyanim, right? So therefore, they remain. They can't. They're hefker, but someone else could take them. Israel could take them. V'chi mikasav get shikor le'ilu. Both according to Tanakama and according to Abba Shal, the Gedolim, at least are Kanu Atzman. According to Tanakama and the Ktanim. So even if you're right, when someone ger dies, it's like hefker. He's relinquishing ownership over them, but he needed to get shechor. About to get shechor. Who wrote a get shechor? Amar Dami Haim Darabanan Kedlogami Inshi Shmaisa. When he heard about this, he says, the question. It sounds like you don't have no idea how to learn. The time in mind. What is the distinction? Amar Rav Nachman Ksavar Ula Avdo the ger ki ishto. The evid of a ger is like his wife. Ma ishto mishtalcha below get. Just like a ger is married to a woman. Right, and he dies, right, even though he dies, she doesn't need a get, even though, right, because when someone dies, one of the ways that a woman is freed from her marriage is death, right? Afavada, so therefore there's a comparison, we make a mematim, just like Avad, his Avadim also, when he dies, mishtachim below get. And you need halacha in that case, when he dies, then they go out with their get. Yisrael nami. If so, even when Yisrael, not a ger, Yisrael, who didn't convert, he was born Jewish. He has avadim, right? When he dies, they should go free. Why did when he dies they're inherited to his sons? Pasuk says, right, that they're like a nachal, avadim of Yisrael. And when a nachal, they go inherit through inheritance to the sons. Let's say a Yisrael, he's mafkir as Eved. He didn't just die. He was mafkir before he died, and then he died. Right, it should be like a woman, right? She goes free after death. Here, also goes free without the get shekher. Allah Amar Amemar said, "Amafkir Abdu Mesa." Also, takana. If you're mafkir your eved and then you die, the eved is stuck, right? Because he's half free because you die, you're mafkir him, but he needs to get shekher, right? And you can't give a get shekher because you're dead, and he has no takana. He can't marry a bas Yisrael. He's not completely free. He can't marry shivcha knainis because he's not really a fully eved. The Gemara says, "Dameimar kasha." Meimar really doesn't make so much sense. Really, he should be freed. Amar Rabbi Yaakov Baridi, Amar Rishon ben Levi, Halacha ka'Abba Shol. The halacha in this machlokas, Tanakama and Abba Shol. The halacha is Abba Shol that the Ketanim can't be kohen themselves. The Yisrael can be kohen the Ketanim, but the Gedolim are kanu atzma. Amar Rizal Rabbi Yaakov Baridi. Rizal said to Rabbi Yaakov Baridi, the top of Lamed Terem Beis. Where did you hear this explicitly? That halacha follows Abba Shol, or did you just infer it from a different teaching? My klal. Where could it be inferred from? The Amar Rishon ben Levi, Amar Lifnei Rebbe, Rabbi Shua ben Levi related. They said in front of Rebbe, Amar Nisyayishtim Ploni Avdi. Right? If a master said, I gave up hope of ever finding my Eved again, meaning Yesh is like hefker. Amar Lahem, Omer Ani Ein Lo Takana, Ela Bishtar. Right? So, in order to be completely free, he needs to go back to his master and get shechur also. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, my time with the Rabbi Yochanan, what's the reasoning of Rabbi that he needs to get shechur? Amar la miisha, v'gzera shava, cost of law, sefer krisos, right? It says law also by an eved. Ma isha b'shtar, av eved nam b'shtar. Just like a woman, she can only free herself from a marriage with a get. So to an Eved needs a get. And since we're learning one from the next, so we make another inference from a woman. Ma isha isura v'lo mamona. Just like an isha, the get severs the kinyan isser, right? When she's married to him, she's not allowed to marry anyone else. Now she's allowed to marry anyone else, right? But the money is not. It's not something representative of the money. Af eved nami isura v'lo mamona. So therefore, an Eved also, the get only functions for the Isser, but not for the Mammon. And therefore the Ketanim, right, when the Ger dies and he leaves over Avodim which are Ketanim, so they, right, Ein lo takana for, he meant for Gedolim, but the Ketanim have a takana because they're not freed. They remain Avodim. The get only severs the Isser, but the Mammon, so by Gedolim, they can be Kona themselves. They have a Yad. They're responsible enough to be Kona themselves, but a Katan can't be Kona himself. There he remains an Eved, and he has Takana. He can remarry a Shifcha. So the words of Imi Kolamai, what does it make a difference? Right? Whether he said explicitly Lachaz Agabashol or you inferred it. Amalei Adarabba, because if it was just an inference, there's a different inference to make. Dok minal Idach Gisa, you can say the opposite. Ma Isha beng Dola beng Tana. Just like an Isha when she gets a get. Right, a woman, whether she's a Gdola or she could be married, a woman will learn Masechus Kedushin, can be married younger than the age of 12, and she gets divorced the same way an older woman gets divorced. Af Eved Nami being Gadol ben Katan. So an Eved also, whether he's big or small, once you're the Hefker, the Ger dies and he leaves over it, right? That's it. His being a slave is gone, or at least partially gone. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. So he said back to him, no, it doesn't make a difference. I heard it explicitly. He says in Rabbi Yochanan the opposite. Lach is not like Abashol, lach is like the Tanakam. Amar le Rabbi Zera, Rabbi Chia bar Abba. Rabbi Zera said to Rabbi Chia bar Abba, b'feir shmilah. Did you hear this from Rabbi Yochanan explicitly? In the Kol Shmilah. Did you infer it from a different teaching? My call. What's the inference? Amar Rishon ben Levi, Amar Lutnei Rebbe. This guy shtin ploni avdi. I gave up hope I ever find my Eved Mahu. Amar Lehema. Omer Arni Ein Lo Takana El Bishtar. Right, he's stuck. Right, once you're Meyayish, so you don't have ownership. You relinquish ownership of them. So he's not completely an Eved anymore. Right, he's partially free, but he's not freed. But he can't marry a Bas Chorim because he needs to get Shechar, and he can't marry a Shechar Kanet because he's not fully an Eved. We'll talk more about the dynamics of this partial freedom in Iyot Ben Sina. If you're wondering exactly what's going on over here, we'll talk more about Shalom and Bershu, so we'll get more into that to understand the difference between Eved and a woman. It's a very important difference. Ela Bishtar. Rabbi Yochanan, my time with the Rebbe. Rabbi Yochanan explained, what's the reason of Rebbe? Gemar Lo Lam Isha. Learn, compare it to a woman. It says law by a woman, law by an Eved. Ma Isha Bishtar, Af Eved Nami Bishtar. Just like an Isha severs her bond from her husband with a get, so do an Eved. V'kadait mina, and we further the inference as follows: Ki isha, ma isha men gadol men tana, af Eved nami men gadol men kata. Just like a woman severed, her bond of marriage is severed, whether she's of age 12 or below age. So too by an Eved, and therefore the halacha is like the Tanakama that the gadol and the Tana can kata themselves. V'imi klala, whereas if it was inferred, what's the difference? Adarabba. So the Gemara says, no, it does make a difference. Adra dok min al ahaki, so you can make an inference the other way. Ma isha isura, right? Just like a woman, Isra is severed, lo mamona, but the money is not severed. Af Eved nami isura lo mamona, but the money is not severed, and therefore by a katan who can't make a kinyan, so therefore he'd remain completely an Eved, and he can marry a shivcha. I'm really beferish shmili. I say it doesn't make a difference. I heard it explicitly. I'm Ramar. So the Gemara previously said, Amar lahem omer ani ein lo takon. Rebbe said, if Nisyayish from your Eved, he has no takana unless you got to get a shikhr from the Eved, from the master. El bishtar, he has to get shikhr. Atanya, but then we learn a brayso. Rebbe Omer ani af hu no sin dmeyatzmo v'yotze and they should come ofrolo. If a person's mafkir is Eved and the Eved goes ahead, or his makdish is Eved, and the Eved goes ahead, Rebbe says he goes ahead and he goes to the Gizbar who owns Hakdish. He says, I'm going to pay my value. He becomes free through kesef, right? So what did we just say before? He needs a get shekar. Here he doesn't need a get shekar. Kesef is okay. Hakika amar. This is what I meant to say. O bekesef o b'shtar. V'hai pakale kaspe. really, technically, an Eved could be freed not just through a get shikra, but also through kesef. Like the example, if you're makdish or Eved, so once you're makdish Eved, you, the owner, relinquish partial ownership. The Beis Hamikdash now has the ownership over him. He buys himself from the Beis Hamikdash. That's okay. However, when you're miyayish or mafki or an Eved, so therefore the kesef pakalei kaspe, there's no financial connection between the master and the Eved anymore. He's given a hopa. He's given up hope, or he's been mafkir, he's made him ownerless. The only way to sever the bond is through a get shikra in that case. Well, Afuke Mahaitana, Rebbe's teaching is coming to tell you it's not, the halacha is not like the following Tana. In Tanya, Reb Shimon Omer, Mishum Rabbi Akiva, Yachol Yehei Kesef Gomer Ba. You might think that an Eved could be freed through Kesef, Gederach Shishtar Gomer Ba. Just like get shikra works by a shivcha knainis. Also kesef. Talmud Omer hifta alon if dasa. This is a pasuk in Parshas Kedoshim, Mar Mitzvah Parsha. It's talking about. I'll have to talk in the next couple daf, and we're talking about the shivcha charufa. Right, it's a special korban asham you bring. It's a very unique case over here where she's partially freed but not completely freed. A slave woman, but she's not completely freed. Ura kol parsha kula lo chufsha. It's telling her at the end she's not completely free. Lo malach. Right, until you give her, it says until you give her get in the pasuk, you have to write something for her. A slave woman or a slave man can't be free with kesef, can only be free with the shtar, with the get shechra. As opposed to Rebbe, who holds kesef could work under certain circumstances. He says lach follows Reb Shimon only get shechar. Yosef Bar Chama or Yochanan ain't a lach Reb Shimon. He says the lach is not like Reb Shimon. Really, even kesef works under certain circumstances, and we happen to paskin like this. I'll explain the psak halacha more in Yud Ben Sion. Ashkelei Rav Nachman or Yitzchak the Rav Bar Shilta. Now when Yitzchak found Rav Bar Shilta to have a kaya pischa debate field, he was standing near the shul. Amarle halacha ain't halacha. Is halacha like Reb Shimon or not? Amarle ani omer ain't halacha. I say halacha is not like Reb Shimon. Rabbanan the Asun Mechuza. Rabbanan come from Mechuza, a different city. Amar Rab Zera Mishmei Rav Nachman halacha. They say the halacha is like Reb Shimon. L'chiyasu l'sura. When I came to Surah, I found Rechi Barabin. Amarli Emily Easy Gufa Duvda Hechi Hava. Tell me, what is this based on? Why are they saying halacha like Reb Shimon? Amarli Dahi Amster. There was a certain case. There was a certain slave woman, a shivcha knainis, to have a mara shchiv mira. Her master was about to die. Asya bachia kameh. She wanted to be freed. She didn't want to be passed down to the inheritors. Free me. How long am I going to be under slavery and I'm going to be degraded? Shakal kumsa. He took his hat. Shadaba. He threw it there. Amar Allah zil kani. Acquire this hat. Vikani nafshik. And threw the hat, which is basically kin chalipin. Acquire yourself. Ask made Rav Nachman. They came in front of Rav Nachman. Is she freed or not? Amar who? He says to them, loss of a loklum. It wasn't an act of shikra. The people saw that savar mishum the Shimon, right? Shava kesef is good kesef. A hat is worth something, so therefore the halacha is like with Shimon that money does not free you. Only a shtar gets shikra. Velohi, that wasn't the reason Rav Nachman said this. Really, he could have agreed to Rebbe. We do agree with Rebbe that kesef could free. Elam mishum the havale kelev shal makna. When you do kinin chalipa, it has to be the kelim of the person who's acquiring himself. If she would have used her hat, she could have done chalipa. But here was the Caleb Shal Makna, and the Caleb of the Eved, and therefore of the master, and therefore it didn't work. Amar Shmuel bar Achisai, Amar Rav Hamnuna Saba, Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Ashiyan, Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav Hamnuna, Halacha Rav Shimon, Halacha follows Rav Shimon, Velohi. The Gemara concludes it's not true. Ain't Halacha Rav Shimon. The Gemara's Maskan Halacha is not follow Rav Shimon. In certain circumstances, an Eved or a Shivcha K'nai can be freed monetarily. Well, to a woman who's married, she can never be freed monetarily. The Gemara says, you might think that just like you can divorce a woman with a shtar, you can divorce her with kesef, either by the man giving the woman or the woman giving the man, whatever the havamina is. The Gemara says, no, kesef does not work to sever a marriage, right? A man can't give a woman money, or a woman can't give a man money and sever the marriage like that. It has to be dafka through a get, the common get we're familiar with, get isha. Now, get shikhr is a little different than that. And I'm going to talk about that in Yud Ben Sion related to the Gemara over here, where the basic halacha is that a mafkir avdol sarah get shikhr. We'll talk about that and how it relates to the difference between a woman and Eved. You're not going to want to miss this share. Yud Ben Sion coming up next.